I'm live. Okay, so I'm back, y'all. I don't know if y'all remember me, but you probably never even seen any of my videos. But coming to y'all to further my teachings about the Christ letters. Anyone that hasn't been following, I'm most likely nobody, because I haven't got no views. But that could be my own fault. I don't know how to push YouTube videos like that. But anybody that knows how or good at getting stuff out or can share my stuff for me and help me and get this great message out, the good news, as they call it in the Bible, or Christ called it in the Bible, if he even called it that in the Bible, because there are a lot of discrepancies, in my opinion, and speaking from Christ's words. They couldn't follow everything he taught them because they couldn't grasp it. And when I say about they is the disciples, his disciples, people that follow him, even the people that weren't even disciples, weren't even in the Bible, the common people, they just couldn't keep up with Christ's knowledge. So it's like the story of the fish. Anybody know what a fish story is? But if you don't know, fish story is when someone catches a fish and it's yay big, and then the next person tells their story to someone else, and it's a little bigger, and then their friend tells their story, and the fish turns into a shark, and then to a whale, and then the biggest fish in the world, whatever. But the point is, they didn't write Christ's words as he spoke. It was more like a fish story where they heard it, and then maybe several years later, they tell his story and try to speak his words and probably paraphrase so badly that the meaning gets lost in translation. So, with that being said, Christ is saying that his words in the Bible are not 100% his words. They've been tampered with or influenced by fear of the Roman and Greek governments, fear of persecution of their own Jewish people, and etc., etc. Like, it's just been plagued with misinterpretation and not only misinterpretation but fear. So a lot of I'll say a lot of people put in the old religion and meshed it with the Christian words, the Christian belief, or Christian teachings of Christ. You know what I'm saying? Christ's teachings. So they've been misconstrued in a sense. He said that, but he also said that there are parts of what his message stood for that did stand out and did affect the world in a positive manner, but as well as a negative, because it's almost like hearing the watered down truth. People are still going to be doing things confused. They're not going to actually be living what he wanted people to live, or how he wanted people to live. He wanted to save the whole world. And he probably would have succeeded if he wasn't murdered. But even in the Christ letter, he said it's his own fault, because it's almost like he got tired of his people not following or being stuck on the old Jewish ways. But don't take my word for it. I'm doing what I did last time. I'm playing the Christ letters. This time I'm playing them from a better place, my TV. And you'll hear them a lot better than maybe my last video. Hopefully you guys start to accept these letters as the new religion, as the new Bible per se. That's what I have. I mean, I read these at least 4 times already. Not read, but I listened to the letters about 4 times already, which is about 16 hours long. So I give myself credit for 4 or 5. It may be 5 already, but I'm taking these books literal and to the heart and to my life, a new way of living. I have taken into account for me and my family, as well as trying to fight my old ways still, because it's not easy to fight our old impulses, our own ways of thought, our own beliefs, our own religious scruples, even the doubts inside of me from doubting this are still fighting and waging war in me, because I was a Christian for a long time. I believed, I read the Bible, I was a full-fledged Christian, other than I didn't really go to church, because there was always something inside of me that the church aspect, there was something phony about it. My energy already fought with it. My energy, my subconscious knew something was wrong. And if you want to take the Christ letters to heart, you will too. And Christianity will die a natural death in your life, and you will fully become a Christ follower, a follower of his letters, of his words. And someone that don't know what the Christ letters is, the Christ letters is letters written by someone with Christ consciousness descended down into their consciousness and helped. He wrote these letters through them, and they couldn't write any words, nothing until Christ gave her the go-ahead, and Christ took over and wrote it. So, with that being said, here are the Christ letters. Here's where I left off in my last video. Hope you guys find it as mind-opening as I did.
Expressly to tell you the truth about the origins of the human personality. I will explain exactly why and how mankind has been given a natural inbuilt propensity for self-will and a controlling desire for self-gratification and self-defense. This is not a sin, but a part of the natural creative processes. There is no punishment from on high. Men, through the willful and harmful exercise of their ego power, draw to themselves their own punishment. Note well, for this reason, just as scientific school textbooks become redundant as the human mind discovers and absorbs more advanced scientific knowledge, so should the present form of Christianity, built upon spurious doctrines centered around my crucifixion, be allowed to die a natural death. Note well, your present global crisis, introducing a new breakdown of international law and laying the foundation for future global terrorism, clearly indicates that no religion in the world possesses the requisite knowledge and effective leadership to initiate changes in human mental patterns, which will lead directly to peace and prosperity. The true spiritual leader will be able to show their congregations how and why modern mindsets have created the calamities and horrors which have been created in consciousness and are only just beginning to make themselves fully felt in your midst as diverse forms of pestilence, earthquakes, floods, famines, wars, revolutions, and other tragedies. Be assured, no evil which comes to your earth is a natural disaster. Everything inimical to your perfect welfare is bred first in your human consciousness and then given form within your global experience. This is what I tried to tell the Jews when I walked the earth and wept when they laughed and refused to believe it. They called me a madman. Let not the churches make the same mistake. Because the churches have been moribund, cemented into rituals and dogmas, their priests and pastors have been unable to meet the evolving spiritual needs of ardent seekers of truth. As a result, the churches are emptying. If they are to endure, the churches must put aside their differences and have the humility to accept that inspiration does not necessarily come to the earth in ways acceptable to themselves. They must remember that I, the Christ, was not acceptable to the Jews. The churches must keep open minds and hearts to receive whatever they intuitively feel is a higher truth than that to which they presently cling, and to abandon old beliefs which have permitted the beast to take control of human thought. Pray sincerely with all your souls, minds, and heart for true enlightenment, rather than a reiteration of old and false beliefs. Wake up and accept that these rituals and past beliefs have not fulfilled my words to mankind when I promised that greater things than I did would you do. Meanwhile, until true enlightenment comes to you, after much meditation and prayer, teach, demonstrate, and live brotherly love with all the strength of soul, heart, and mind, minute by minute in your daily lives. Because to combat the global destructive consciousness forces, humanity must make every effort to move on swiftly to the next stage of its development. Urgent need for a higher vision. It must be widely accepted there is a higher vision to strive to implement in your daily lives. It is only by reaching for a higher vision that the physical world will be rescued from wholesale annihilation. Without the vision, either for the self or for the...
You about to take a shower?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay.
And then I like to write it out. I got the baby rice.
The chicken's almost done?
Yeah. He's eating rice. Dylan's watching while he's eating rice.
Okay. Thank you, baby. Well, so far, he's just expressing his concern for the churches. He's also telling you that Christianity pretty much is going to die a natural death. He may have not said it here, but in the letters he does express it in the next 30 years. But the letters are wrote in 2001. It is now 2018. So I say in the next 12 years, you're going to see more churches from the letters of Christ. And believe it or not, hopefully I'll be one of those churches. But I have been asking for donations. I've been trying to get them through my music. If you don't know, you could search Sane, I guess. It's one of my songs which covers some of my introduction to my belief in the Christ letters. It's rap music, but it's more of a spiritual rap, consciousness rap, as opposed to commercial or mainstream, violent, gross, materialistic rap. That's not me. My rap is more about this, and I'm trying to just sell it that way I can start my church. Because you need money to start. You need money for a church, for steeple, chairs, all that, you know. Money for church. You need all that money for all that. Stage, microphones, ushers, you know. It's not cheap. It's not free. But I'm not going to be a church that's going to be begging every time people come in to sit down and pass the plate around 3 times. You'll have a chance to give donations at the end of sermons if you loved what you heard, if you loved what this person preached at the time, or if you loved the music, and whatever you loved about it, you want to continue to have that. That's where the offerings or the donations will come in at. That way we keep the church open and continue to spread the truth of Christ. With that being said, let me continue the video.
World, there can be no spiritual evolution or the achievement of those things greatly desired. At the present time, your perception of life is one of travail and deprivation. These beliefs are shockingly depicted and reinforced by your TV viewing. They later bring upon you the misery you hoped will never happen to you. Therefore, to save you from your own folly expressed through the media and TV, the human consciousness must be speedily uplifted to see what I saw in the desert, the reality of love behind and within all existence. Note well, when this great truth is both perceived and warmly acknowledged, The reality of love will begin to manifest itself in multiple ways, in every living thing and in the environment itself. The experience of abundance and joy will reinforce the consciousness of abundance and joy, and so a spiritual spiral of ever more exalted and wondrous living will be set in motion. When the true nature of being is fully understood, humanity will move on to the next rung of spiritual evolution and will put into motion a new and blessed form of human endeavor and personal experience. To achieve these goals, humanity must first gain insight into what and who you are. A new and important question is already coming into people's consciousness. Who are you, really, behind the facade you present to the world? What does it take to be real? It is this question of who you really are which is answered on every level of your being within these pages. And if you can accept as your own guidelines for daily living all that I understood during my 6-week desert experience, you too will eventually become whole and real, even as I became whole and real before I commenced my ministry of healing and teaching. Since there are few people in the world who would regard themselves as whole at this present time, you must surely recognize that there is the most urgent necessity for me to intrude into your minds to lead you into a new way of thought and feeling. Such a change in consciousness will bring you into divine harmony with reality and better living conditions and security. To be able to do this work of reconstruction within your consciousness, I must first impress on your minds, and you must accept, that there was much I taught in Palestine which men were not yet ready to receive. Significantly, it has never been publicly questioned why there is no record of my early life as a young man. What was the true reason for such an all-important omission? Equally significant, although I spent 6 weeks in the desert after my baptism and emerged from that experience as a teacher and healer, not one writer has ever attempted to describe what actually took place during that time other than that I was tempted of the devil and was with the wild beasts, and the angels were with him. There is not the slightest hint as to what happened to me in the desert which would enable me to come back to towns and villages proclaiming the kingdom of God is within, and to speak in the synagogues with such authority that the Jewish elders were astonished. The truth regarding my human state was, by common consent of my disciples, suppressed to give greater credence to my supposed divinity and ministry. According to the Gospels, it was said of me that I was the only Son of God. Why then did I frequently refer to myself as the Son of Man? I specifically made these statements to counteract the prevalent beliefs in my divinity and to impress upon people's minds that I was of the same physical origins as themselves. I intended them to understand that what I could do, they could also do if they only had my knowledge and followed my instructions for right thinking and right action. So many myths have arisen around.
So, I just want to say this. About 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, I was homeless. Me and my children. About a year ago, I started reading the Christ letters. Now, if you can see, I'm not homeless no more. Not only is that, I've been being blessed in every way possible ever since I took on this new found religion, but me, way of life. I ain't rich or nothing like that, but by no means am I hurting like I was before these letters, before I started changing my life and my way of thinking. Just so you know, my kids ain't hurting for nothing. I still have my music. I mean, the point of the matter is, I've been blessed. That you might drink dilly dilly when you are dry. So, just so you know, I'm still here. It's just up. You can be blessed too if you start to adapt and understand that you control the world. You control your world. You control your outcome. You control your finances. You control everything. As long as you want to have positive notions, affirmations. I'm not saying nothing bad that will ever happen to you, but it's less likely when you live by these words, by these teachings. Very less likely. With that being said, my baby, that's Talia.
Wakanda forever.
That's my angel girl. And she makes her daddy happy.
Wakanda forever.
But I'm doing something right now. Baby, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hi guys.
say hi.
Hi.
But at the same time, it's gonna be an uphill battle. It's not gonna be easy. I went through a lot. And I'm still going through it. And, you know, it's flesh, as we call it in Christianity. But I call it this consciousness, this earthly consciousness, or finite thinking, is what's troubling most of us. Not only that, the subconscious or unconscious patterns in our mind from music, the movies, dogma of religions, criticism and judgment from others, even your own past bad experiences, they affect the way we think, act, live, more than you know. And that's the first thing you have to do, is try to obliterate those ways of thinking and start to understand that you're in control of your world. No one else's. Your world. Now, other people can affect your world, but you have a choice every time if you're going to let them, allow them to affect you, or just keep instilling love and great understanding and great words and great thoughts and having a great heart towards them, even if they're doing you wrong. It's your choice. So I advise you, don't let nobody affect your mood, your energy, your way of thinking. Don't let them take it out of the positivity, and keep your good, high vitality, good energies up. Try not to judge and criticize everyone, because you will be judged and criticized. Try not to condescend or use sarcasm, because people will use it toward you. All of these things, all of these negative things, being aggressive and cursing at people and calling people names and things, you may not get it right away, but something's going to happen in that sense to you, and it may not even come back the same way. It might come back in a totally different way. But the belief here is cause and effect, and reap what you sow. More than you know. Way more than you know. So, that being said, let me continue.
My earthly person and my spiritual consciousness that it is time to be rid of them as completely as possible, since they are preventing people from evolving spiritually. You, who have been indoctrinated with religious teachings, must try to understand that when describing my life, my disciple gospelers related only what they personally remembered, which fully supported their account of my supernatural activities. They also included much that had been spoken of me by others during the 30-odd years following my death. After such a lapse of time and inevitable embroidery of truth, how could they possibly write an authoritative biography of me and of what really happened, or properly explain my true spiritual perceptions which gave birth to my words and miracles?
That was another one of my blessings.
Little Will.
Yeah, that. Just to live, no touch, no touch. You have to leave it alone, Papa, please.
Ooh. Titi.
Yeah, that's Titi. Take him out, Coco. Thank you, baby. Go bye-bye. Go, Grandma. Thank you. Sorry, y'all, but family calls sometimes when you least expect it. Even though I got 2 babysitters out there, they still want to come to Daddy, even though Daddy's trying to work. Kind of just happens that way. But anyway, let's get back to the video. I just paused it because they were probably making too much noise. I don't know if you could hear, but let me continue.
Miracles. Only one person can write from this standpoint, and that is myself. Therefore, these letters will bring you my truth in a way that no spectator could possibly tell it, no matter how well they thought they understood my thinking. For this reason, over 40 years, my recorder's mind has been systematically cleansed of all orthodox teachings, and the system of communication between us has been perfected. If my truth expressed in these letters differs from much written in your New Testament, is it to be wondered at or rejected for that reason? Therefore, I am descending in consciousness briefly, as near as necessary to your plane of consciousness, to describe my life and teachings 2,000 years ago. My place in history. I must first point out that my life and person were briefly referred to in the History of the Jews, written by Josephus for the Roman governor and presented to the Roman emperor. Josephus briefly noted that Jesus, who attempted to overthrow law and order and the governance of the Romans, was punished and crucified. It has been argued that this was some of the Jesus recorded by Josephus, but this is not so. I, who later became the Christ, who performed so-called miracles of healing and materialization, was the insurrectionist. But I was no rabble-rouser. I did not deliberately stir people up to defy the Romans and disrupt law and order. I was a rebel against existing Jewish traditions, and because when I emerged from my 6-week sojourn in the desert, I saw a better way to think and live, and I tried to pass on my knowledge to my fellow Jews with little success. It is important you should understand that the pressure of public opinion weighed with my followers. While they truly believed I had brought a soul-saving message to the Jews and was the Messiah, the Son of God, they were also of the world, trying to relate to the world as best they could. Therefore, although they knew my reactive feelings towards the Jewish beliefs, they were not happy to dispense with the Old Testament altogether, since it had supported and kept the Jews together throughout their history. In the interest of preserving what they thought to be valuable in the Old Dispensation, they suppressed any description of the person I was. My disciples and Paul built their own edifice of sacred beliefs on which they wanted to preserve from my life and teachings. They only taught and consolidated what they deemed to be valuable to people, Jews and Gentiles alike, at that time and in the future. Consequently, they distilled what they could use and let go most of what I termed the secrets of the kingdom of God, for they never understood them, nor found them desirable in the creation of a new perception of the divine, the Father.
No, look what
To preserve the Jewish people,
I appreciate that thing. And I was gonna give it back. No, you didn't have to do that.
What did he do?
Put his hand in.
He tried smelling the inside. How does that sound? The smell is everywhere, so how do you need to smell the inside of a brownie? Don't do that no more. What I tell you about food, you don't need to go taking stuff. We got plenty of food. All you gotta do is ask us. Please, Pa, stop that. Matter of fact, all y'all go. This isn't for you.
Let's go, Papa. Let's go.
Kids. Well, anyway, I had to pause that. Because what just happened. Also,
Papa.
please, Pa, you have to go bye-bye.
Oh,
I'll be right out. I'm only gonna be 10 more minutes. I'll be right out, okay? And if anyone follows me, any media platform, social media platform, and waiting for me to drop more music, that's the reason why I can't drop no more music so soon, because even when I have babysitters, my studio is in the house. So every 10 minutes, my kids, whether it's my son, my daughter, my oldest daughter, my oldest son, they have to see me, they have to talk to me, they have to. So it's kind of hard for me to make more music or videos. It's kind of hard. I mean, I need to get them to a certain age, especially my youngest. He's 2. Once he gets 3, it might be a little easier because he'll understand more. He'll be able to conform with what I'm asking. But right now, he just can't. So, sorry if y'all waiting for more. I have been writing here and there, but it's hard for me to get in the studio, per se, and stay in there with quiet. And plus, I need a producer. I need someone to make me some more beats. Anybody know anybody that's looking to work with another artist that all they do is make beats and they don't write or nothing? I'm their person, but just so you know, my music is not going to be what you may like in the mainstream, your popular stuff. Mine is more to think about. Enigmatic, however you say that. I try to make like enigma music, whatever you want to call it. But just to make people think. But now it's more like I'm trying to make you think on a spiritual level, if you will. That being said, I'm going to listen to 5 more minutes of the letters. I'll explain to you what he's talking about. I'll have a summit. I'll sum it all up. And then you guys are just going to have to wait for the next video. And I'm sorry this is live, so I don't have time to edit. And you know, anything that happens, it's the way it's supposed to happen. Love y'all for watching. Thank you. And just listen to the rest of this. Hopefully I'm not stopping you or messing up your train of thought. But you can always go back and refer to the Christ letters. Type Christ letters in Christ's letters in YouTube. It'll come up with Christ's face. Almost like a mural of his face. A big picture of his face. Kind of faded white on around the edges of his face. And there's one of 9. So this is letter 1 I'm listening to. You can always listen to it. And if it interests you, man, most likely if you really take this to heart and want to understand it and want to make it a way of life, I'm telling you, I promise you, good things are going to happen.
Belief in salvation from punishment for sins by means of sacrifice in the temple. The person of Jesus was adopted as the supreme sacrifice who had paid for men's sins by my crucifixion. This belief served many purposes at that time. It gave my death on the cross a valid and heroic reason. It proved to the people that I was Son of God who had carried out a specific mission to the very end of my life. This belief also proved to be of great comfort to the Jews when their temple was destroyed by the Romans and led to many converts taking place. Many sects of Jews and Gentiles also did not believe in life after death. Consequently, it was greatly comforting to hear that Jesus Christ had overcome death and retained his body. To much human thought at that time, life was not possible without a body. Therefore, life after death could only mean the resurrection of the body. It also kept my name constantly alive in the minds of people. I was the historic figure who had valiantly died to ensure that men should be freed of all fear of hell and damnation. Providing they believed in me, they could walk as freed men. It is only because my name has been kept alive to this very day that I am now able to come to you and give you the truth I so dearly wanted to share with people 2,000 years ago. My early life and experiences in the desert. I was born in Palestine. My mother was convinced that I would be a Messiah. Contrary to popular belief, I was not a saintly child. When taken to the temple, aged 12 years old, to be interviewed by the chief priest to determine whether I would be fit to enter Jewish religious training, I was rejected as being too opinionated. Bitterly disappointed, my mother took me home again and did her best to raise me in the sanctity which marked her demeanor at all time. This was an impossible task, for I was, above all things, an individualist and unruly in behavior. I resented my mother's guidance and her attempted discipline. As a youth, I became unmanageable, a true rebel. I rejected my mother's staunch adherence to the Jewish faith and tradition, preferring laughter to sanctimonious attitudes. I refused to learn a trade which would have bound me down to routine. I chose to mix with all and sundry of the poorer classes, drank with them, knew prostitutes, and enjoyed talking, arguing, laughing, and being bona idle. When I needed money, I went into the vineyards for a day or two or took other jobs paying me enough to eat and drink and give me the leisure I craved. For all my shortcomings as a human being, my careless, easy, indolent attitudes, my self-will, and egocentric determination to think my own thoughts, irrespective of what others might try to tell me, I cared about people very deeply. I was deeply emotional. In your present speech forms, you would call me overreactive, over-emotional. I had a warm, compassionate, empathetic heart. I was deeply moved in the presence of sickness, affliction, and poverty. I was a staunch supporter of what you call the underdog. You might say I was a people's person. I lived with them closely in a spirit of camaraderie. I listened to their woes, understood, and cared. It is important to understand my true origins and my early youthful characteristics, because these were the goads which pushed and prodded me into eventual Christhood. What I most strongly detested and resisted was the misery, the sickness and poverty I saw around me. It infuriated me, and I became passionately, vociferously angry to see people dressed in rags, thin and hungry, diseased, crippled, yet heartlessly browbeaten by Jewish leaders who burdened them with meaningless traditional laws and observances, threatening them with Jehovah's punishment if they did not obey. I declared to all who would listen to me that these poor people had enough to bear without being crushed by senseless measures restrictive of pleasure. What was the point of life at all if we were not born to be happy? I refused to believe in a just God according to Jewish traditions. The biblical prophetic warnings of Jehovah's judgment and anger against people disgusted me. People were human after all, doing what their human natures prompted them to do. They had been born sinful, so why should they be judged and condemned to lives of suffering and poverty because they had broken the Ten Commandments? Where was the sense in such statements? To me, this Jewish belief depicted an illogical, cruel God, and I wanted nothing to do with him. It seemed to me that if such a deity existed, it followed that mankind was doomed to eternal misery. The simplicity and freedom I found on the hillsides, the plains, the lakes, and the mountains refreshed my inmost spirit and quieted my angry murmuring against the Jewish God. Consequently, I refused to believe a word that the Jewish elders tried to teach me. However, during my middle 20s, a new line of questioning took possession of my thoughts. As I walked ever more frequently alone in the hills, my rebellion was gradually replaced by an all-consuming longing to know and understand the true nature of that which must surely inspire and respire through creation. I reviewed my lifestyle and saw what suffering my actions had caused my mother and many other people. Although I felt such deep compassion for the weak and suffering, My rebellious nature had prompted much thoughtless and selfish behavior toward my family. My underlying love for them now welled up in me, and I found myself becoming equally rebellious against my past behavior. I heard talk about John the Baptist and the work he was doing amongst the Jews who had come to listen to his words, even from Jerusalem. I decided to visit him to be baptized myself. On my way to the River Jordan, I felt exhilarated at the prospect of being baptized and starting a new life. I knew that despite my unruly emotionalism, I had also been born with a keen intelligence and a gift for insightful, impressive debate, which I had used willfully and negatively, leading people into unruly arguments. I had thrown my talents away by pursuing a life of self-will, idleness, and pleasure. As a result, I had forfeited all respect from others. Neither did I possess any self-respect. For the first time, I found this to be intolerable. It occurred to me that in the future I could and must put my natural gifts to better use. Instead of just making a noise, perhaps I could find a way to lighten the burdens of those whom I so deeply pitied. Up to that time, I had been of little practical use to anyone. My baptism. When I entered the water in the River Jordan to be baptized,
I'm gonna end it there. It's kind of like the middle, almost like an introduction, but I'll say it's the middle of the letter because, see, in the beginning, he's just discussing like how the letters came about, also who he was, personality-wise, and what he sees in the world. But now he's about to go in depth in his own experiences. So this is really where it starts, almost like an autobiography of him in the desert before he went into the desert. So right now he's about to be baptized by John, and then he's going to tell you about him going in the desert, what he sees in the desert. But I'll leave that for you. If you really want and love what I'm saying and you're feeling this, I want you to listen to this whole letter 1, at least letter 1. I know it's a lot to ask to try to do 9 letters all at once, but letter 1, it's an hour and 32 minutes. I'm sure you waste more time watching movies most of the time than this. So if you just give it a chance, listen to it all the way to the end. If you're feeling it, you're going to feel something, trust me, because you're going to hear some truth that you probably knew yourself and doubted yourself. But I'm telling you now, stop doubting yourself, because you are the power. You are the source. You are from the source. But in order for us to use the source to become like Christ-like, you have to turn away from all the selfishness and gratification and impulses and everything that makes us fleshly, earthly. I mean, especially the judgment, the criticism, the evil, angry, vicious, vindictiveness that people can be, the pettiness. As people nowadays, like, people will jump on you for looking at them the wrong way, and you probably weren't even looking at them. You're probably looking right past them at a sign or something. They think you're staring at them the wrong way, and people will try to kill you for that, cut you off in the road or something. Like, people are too petty nowadays. This pettiness needs to stop. You need to appreciate people more. This is what's being discussed in these letters. Love is very powerful, and hatred is very powerful. Your thoughts are very powerful, and these are all being expressed in the Bible, in the New Testament. But see, these letters get more deep into those whys and hows and whens and wheres and whos. They're all being discussed in these letters. So Christ letters, YouTube, search it if you're ready for it. If not, I ask you one question. What do you truly believe? Who do you believe in? Why do you believe in it? What do you think you're searching for within these beliefs? Now, one thing that we can all agree upon, if you're in a religion, is that there's a higher source. There's a creator. Someone that put us here, that guides us here and there. The part that this way of life, this way of thinking that Christ is introducing to us now, is that all the bad things, you can't blame God, or the good things, you can't blame God. They all is because of you. You're creating these things. The punishment is coming from yourself. We can't offend God. God is just here almost like a stool, if you will. He'll help you, and he's here guiding you, but he's not making your decisions. You are. He's just there to help you every now and then, if you fall, to bring you some enlightenment in your mind when you're having trouble, or if you go through something bad. He's here to bring you joy. So it's being expressed that Christ is, the Father, the Source, our Creator, is everywhere. In all the empty space, in all the air, in all the water, in all the plants and animals. His presence is there because he created the systems, the circulatory systems, the protective systems, the blood, the heart, the brain. These were all created. They were all designed by our Creator. Even in the plants and animals, all of their anatomy, if you will. Every day, you breathe. So every day, God is breathing for you. Every day your heart pumps. And the Lord created those. So he pumps that for you. So just believe that your Creator is here with you. But it's up to you to do the right thing. No one else. You. Love y'all. May the Father, Mother, Life guide you. May divine consciousness seep into your brain and your heart and help you find your path in life and your talents. I love y'all. Have a great and wonderful, magnificent, blessed day. Thank you.